Hello everybody, thank you for joining us. Today we're going to draw a dragon. Dragons, of course, are mythical beasts that they're like everybody's favorite mythical beast. And when we talk about a dragon, there are certain important elements that we definitely have to tap into when we are putting out the drawing of a dragon. One is it's scaly. It is for the most part, unless it's very cartoonish or it's meant for some light-hearted fare, like Spyro, the video game dragon. If it is like a kid's design, that's another thing. But otherwise, for the general part, there has to be something menacing about their appearance. I mean, that's how they really go over as an essential part of mythology. So we're going to start with putting an oval and then putting this box shape over it, and let's go and put a head right there. Now, dragons have wings, and we will also probably tap into that in this area. We want to focus on the head here. So because there's a lot to work with when we're talking about a dragon. So we are showing now also when we are speaking about a dragon, there's really no limit to imagination there. No limit. One good source I would say is, instead of just Googling dragons, I think our recommendation would be to try McFarlane's line of dragons. So what we're doing is right here. First of all, we're just going over and creating a dragon entirely from our own imagination. So that is I'm doing the upper jaw first in this case. So as I was mentioning here, that strong recommendation to check out McFarlane's line of dragons. Like, they were a line of statues and figurines for the adult demographic that focused only on dragons, and then they opened up the imagination to different levels. Like, they produced the most inventive types of action figures when it came to dragons. They had an ice dragon, they had a fire dragon, they had an elder dragon, so like all those, so they called it, I think, the Age of Dragons. So please do check that out. So that's one eye from this angle, there's a part of that eye from that angle, those are the brows. And now there's two ways to go about, and that is to either keep things as clean as possible or like throw in a tremendous amount of detail. So of course, depending on how skilled you may be with your own experience and sources, you might want to do either or. There's like no particular rule there of what to do. So I'm just imagining like that is the clamped jaw. Maybe I'll give it a little gap in there. So I'm all for like the more menacing type of dragons. So there's the hefty lower jaw. Sometimes like they're so streamlined that the jaws are just like like slim. So smaller upper jaw and heftier lower jaw. That is because I love dragons that have horns. So I'm putting in a pair right there, and then just going over, perhaps putting one here, and then just one more. Like people sometimes will just go all out and put a whole lot of them, and we can do that, but we will just let's be content with just putting these many. There's a hint of the lower lip if we want. Otherwise we can just start drawing in some tones, and there's a hint that the jaw was slightly a gap there as well, which is okay. You can see slightly a gap here. We could increase that gap here a little bit if you want. So dragons and dinosaurs, not too far off. In fact, on Discovery, a few years ago there was a commentary that featured the possibility of a dragon actually, if it could live, if a creature like that could exist, if let's say if we could ever discover something like that, and if it could possibly be alive, but the possibilities were not many, because to have a fire-breathing beast, they mentioned that it would take a tremendous amount of engineering on the part of nature to have such a beast actually work. So again, from the outset, just putting out a pair of horns there. Again, not like necessarily the ideal pair of horns, because again, we're just doing this from the top of the head right here, and just showing the possibilities of how we can like go about this, how menacing this can be. So see, more horns and more horns. I think we'll end there. And to cap off the other side, just making horns that are equivalent to that one. Throwing in some scale structure here. Now, when we're back to that discussion about National Geographic's view on if a beast like that could exist, they mentioned that it's not really possible because it's too big. Number one, it would have to have a hollow set of bones to actually work. There are one or two possibilities too, that perhaps something like that could exist if there was a high amount of evolution involved, like really high. So we'll put in some textures here, and we go into the body of the dragon there. Which I would love to see composed of horns as well. perhaps. So those are like the scales, and just like reptiles. So dragons, again, the most important aspect that I didn't mention here was that have to essentially have a feel of being reptilian. So like dinosaurs, closer to dinosaurs, part alligator when it comes to streamlined jaws. So there I'm just putting in some uh, scale work right around the jaws there. And of course, now depending on how detailed we want to make the illustration, we can just keep on adding as many details as we want. So maybe the lower part of the jaw, we could put in some scales and have scales going that way, and then perhaps have a set of scales, because dragons have to be beautiful, like no matter what. They can be ugly dragons, but dragons have to be exquisite, beautiful, and menacing at the same time. So the beauty, I mean, it's part of the scales and what do we say, ash fueled structure is that there's everything has to be streamlined, everything has to flow. So I might have scales. So right here, instinctively, I just made these scales larger going down. So the reason for this commentary as we're going along is we're putting together this sketch, and of course in the phase to follow this quick sketch, we are going to put in some details as to we're talking about the in between the scales, just to illustrate how to, like, just go around it very quickly, not necessarily in a very time consuming mega detailed effort. We can get it as much detailed as we want, and it would work, but we don't necessarily go into that detail right here because we are just doing a generic quick sketch. Now the other important element that I mentioned was that we have to have a pair of wings when we're talking about dragons. So wings, essentially, we see like all different kinds of wings here. But for example, if this guy was right here, the wing structure, I think, could, for this dragon, be somewhat like that. So starting from somewhere here, you have to imagine that that is his pair of limbs going up. So perhaps a hint of ivory right there. And then mix of leather. So just like a Gothic bat-like feel to it, but has to be different at the same time. And then perhaps have another pair of bones in there if you want, going into, but everything has to flow back into the torso. Now this is not in proportion with this, but we're just illustrating that that is one quick way in which you can put down a dragon wing. That is the outside of the wing, and of course it'll have all the textures going in, like right there. And this is just to, like, that's how they work to differentiate the components when it's so crowded with texture. And then of course the inside, you could just have like some streamline but more like shrivelly skin in there, even here in between. So more shrivelly and outstretched skin. The more detailed, the better it is. But tones and fills can, like, go a certain way and also determining and making things easier. And then of course crisscrossing scales. So a lot going on. So we're just going to go and just put some cross hatch in here to finish this off. So do check out McFarlane's line of dragons. Might be very instrumental in giving you a ton of ideas of how to play around with different dragon types and forms or styles. So thank you for watching. Please just stay tuned as we just finish off with some crosshatch, just to illustrate how it works with these skills. So please subscribe, keep in touch. Have yourself a wonderful day.